Hello everyone. This update brings some basic sound effects which makes the gameplay more lively. I'm using some free assets and I'm not focusing too much on the quality or consistency among different audio clips. As for the moment I just want to see how already existing gameplay composes with the sound layer. You can also see that the ground colors slightly change as I continue my experiments towards darker atmosphere. Enemies can now deal a melee attack damage. When they get close to the character, they will shoot a projectile just like an enemy with range attack ability would do. But the attack range is so small that it simulates melee attack behavior quite well. Before, only the enemies that could shoot projectiles were able to harm the character, so now any enemy can pose a threat to the player. Better implementation of melee attack will be introduced in the next video. The character gained a few new abilities. Ice Spike is an icy equivalent of the fireball and deals cold damage. Firestorm and Blizzard are entirely different type of spell and deal area damage for a certain amount of time. They consist of fireballs and ice spikes respectively, falling from the sky in large amounts. The most interesting new skill is a lightning bolt that jumps between enemies. One bolt is capable of killing a whole group of them if they're not too strong. There's also a healing skill that restores life points when no health pickups are to be found nearby. I added it rather for convenience during game testing than as a legitimate skill, as it might be too easy to heal after every encounter with enemies. Ice damage now slows down or freezes enemies, so the player can use it to his tactical advantage. Whether it merely slows down or completely freezes depends on the enemy having partial or full resistance to cold. Enemies can now take limited damage thanks to resistances. Monsters I call fire golems became harder to kill with fireballs. Ice golems gained resistance to ice projectiles, and some other enemies started taking limited physical damage. Projectiles can now deal multiple types of damage at once. For instance, the total damage of a fireball consists of a physical and fire damage, so it's still possible to kill fire golem with fireballs, as he's not resistant to physical damage, but it's going to take a little longer than, say, with ice projectiles. Every spell can now have different casting time. You can spawn projectiles a few times per second, but casting a firestorm or blizzard will take a little more time. I also added a simple effect indicating that the attack is in progress. Notice a small particles raising around the character when he is casting a spell. Some of the skills require a cooldown right after use, what prevents the player from casting them too frequently. It would be too easy and boring if you could teleport all the time or spam the whole area with blizzards and firestorms, or use the healing skill every second during a fight with a difficult enemy. Next to the player health bar there is a list of current cooldowns, with an icon of the skill and a small progress bar indicating remaining cooldown time. I changed how fast attack pickup works. Before, your attacks were getting faster every time you picked up one of them. Now the attack speed remains the same, but the remaining time gets accumulated. You can also see a visual indicator above the health bar showing when the power up will deactivate. I added a new scene where I laid side by side dozens of terrains with various color schemes. Experimenting with different terrains gives me many ideas about potential locations in the game and quests that these locations could host. I also added an enemies counter in the top right corner to see how many agents the engine can take until the FPS drops. In the next videos I want to add basic 3D models of enemies with simple animations. I also want to improve terrains so they can resemble proper game areas. Stay tuned for next videos. Thanks for watching and goodbye.